Welcome to The Explainer. So, if you've been keeping an eye on the housing market, you know 2025 was, well, a pretty tough year. But it looks like something's starting to shift as we head into 2026. All of a sudden, real estate agents are feeling way more optimistic, and we're going to dig into why that is.
After what was a really slow 2025, a new survey of over 500 agents is showing that confidence is definitely on the rise. And, according to Tamir Polig, who's the CEO of The Real Brokerage, this isn't just your typical end-of-year cheer. He says it feels like something much more real.
So the big question is, what is actually driving this new wave of confidence? I mean, this is a huge turnaround from where we were just a few months ago. Okay, let's dive into the numbers and see what's going on.
To really get a handle on this feeling, we can look at a specific number called the Agent Optimism Index. Basically, it's a way to measure how hopeful agents are feeling about the market over the next year.
And this timeline, wow, it really tells the story, doesn't it? After hitting a peak at the end of 2024, confidence just kept dropping and dropping, finally bottoming out in November 2025 at 66.6. But then, just look at that jump in December. That's a serious rebound.
Yeah, that score, 70.8, is a really big deal. It's actually the highest the index has been in 11 months. So this isn't just a little blip. It's a major signal that confidence is coming back. And it's a clean break from the pessimism we saw for most of 2025.
This chart just puts that shift into a whole new perspective. We're not talking about a small mood swing here. A whopping 70% of agents felt more optimistic in December than they did just 1 month before. And what really tells you something is that only 5% felt more pessimistic. That is an overwhelmingly positive consensus.
Okay, so what's actually fueling all this optimism? Well, it seems to come down to a pretty fundamental shift in the power dynamic between buyers and sellers.
You can see a really clear and, honestly, a really rapid trend here. Back in November, a majority of agents, 54%, felt like they were in a buyer's market. Fast forward just 1 month, and that number drops below half, down to 49%. The whole idea of who has the advantage is changing, and it's changing fast.
In fact, it's not just that agents are seeing less of a buyer's market, they're seeing more balance. Just over 1 in 3 agents now say their market is balanced. That sweet spot where neither side really has the upper hand. This suggests we're moving toward much more stable ground.
But, and this is a big but, all this growing optimism doesn't mean the challenges from 2025 have just vanished into thin air. There's still one massive hurdle that's keeping the market from really taking off: affordability.
And when you dig into the data, you see this one dominant concern that just keeps looming over potential buyers. It's influencing every single decision they make.
I mean, look at this. Housing affordability isn't just a concern. It is the #1 issue for a full half of all buyers. That is double the worry over the economy or the lack of houses. This single issue is shaping the entire experience for anyone trying to buy a home right now.
And this brings us right back to the core of it all. Agents are feeling optimistic, not because affordability is suddenly solved, but because, as Tamir Polig says, they're seeing that intense pressure finally start to ease up a bit. It's the direction things are heading that's sparking all this hope.
So what do you get when you have rising optimism mixed with these huge affordability challenges? Well, it means we kind of have to redefine what a good market even looks like right now.
The key takeaway here is this idea of a healthier balance. This isn't about getting back to some red-hot, crazy market. No, it's more about moving towards something stable and sustainable for 2026. A market that isn't completely tilted one way and where that intense affordability crunch is slowly but surely loosening its grip.
And all of this leaves us with one final thing to think about. As the market starts to find its footing and move toward this new, healthier balance, you have to ask, who's actually going to benefit the most? Is it the buyers who've been patiently waiting on the sidelines? Or is it the sellers who've been too nervous to list their homes? That is the big question for 2026.